Good evening. I am going to check in periodically to make sure folks can hear me. I am coming to you remotely here today. Jennifer, and Shauna, we're still good? You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Justin, okay, and Justin, have we let any guests in that need to come in virtually?
We have one guest. Yep, everybody's in.
Okay, thank you. Again, welcome, Michael Langer. I am chairing the meeting today for Grant Rodenheber, who is out. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we will start with our flag salute. And Neil, you've been working hard. You want to go ahead and lead us in the flag salute tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all. And we'll go ahead and do roll call. And I believe we have excused absences from Juana and from Grant. And so I'll start with Neil.
Present.
And Tom.
Here.
And Jennifer.
Present.
Terrific. Thank you, guys. And we are going to begin our meeting today with a budget hearing. And there is a statement I will read here in just a moment. I got to get it minimized so I can get to it. There we go. The purpose of the public hearing, this is a public hearing on our budget. The purpose of the public hearing is to obtain public testimony or comment before decisions are made by the board. After the presentation, all attending members of the public will be provided an opportunity to speak on the topic presented if they so desire. Public hearing testimony is separate from public comment, and sign-in is not required. We ask that you limit all comments to 3 minutes or less and begin by stating your name for recording purposes. If it is determined that you are not speaking on the presented topic, you will be asked to sign in to speak during one of the approved public periods of the general business meeting. And with that, I'm going to get my screen back up here. And half a moment, there we go. And turn it over to, I believe, Jennifer, unless Jill's here, who is walking us through the budget this evening.
Yes, Jill Pratt will be walking us through tonight.
Welcome, Jill.
Hi, I'm here. So just starting off with the 22-23 budget, if you have any questions as I go along, please feel free to stop and ask. So the highlights for the 22-23 budget, the standout, a majority of our revenues are based off of enrollment, and we are expecting lower than normal kindergarten enrollment. And it might just be a fluke that we don't have them signed up yet, and they're all going to come flooding in when the doors open at the end of this month. But right now we're projecting a low number and budgeting conservatively for that. There's currently not any planned programs or service cuts. We're maintaining all our current programs and services. We have an added position for a board certified behavior analyst, and we are continued to be supported with ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funding through the federal government due to COVID. So like I had said, general fund budget is mostly based off of enrollment projections. So this slide shows us our history of enrollment and where we've landed. So you can see that 2021 and 21-22 are our actuals. So we did decrease from year to year, and we are expecting a further decrease for the 22-23 school year. So a summary of the general fund budget. We are expecting a $4.3 million beginning fund balance. revenues of 35,544,000 and expenditures of 36,830,000 with an ending fund balance of 3,067,000. So there is a projection to use fund balance, but the ending fund balance still falls within the board policy of maintaining 5 to 7% of budgeted expenditures. So more details of the revenues that we're planning on, levy at 3.8 million, local revenues at 138,000, general state money of 19.9 million, state specific money of 6.1 million, and federal programs of 5.5 million. So that's where those SR2 and SR3 land is in that line. This is the same data, just in a different visual, showing where we get our money from, in pie slices for the visual people that like to see that. And then the breakdown of where our expenditures are. School districts budget heavily to employee salary and benefits, as you can see there, between certificate and classified salaries and benefits, supplies of 1.6 million. Contracted services is 7.1 million. And if you were to compare us to perhaps a neighboring district on contracted services, our number is going to be higher than many of them because we contract for food service and transportation. So we don't actually employ those. Those are all paid out on that line item. Travel of 157,000 and capital outlay of 136,000. So there's the visual of that same information where you can see a big chunk of that pie is salaries and benefits. Another way to look at expenditures is in the programmatic areas. So basic education's planned to be at 17.9 million. Federal special purpose of 2.7 million. So again, that's the SR2 and SR3. Special education of 5.7 million. Vocational education at just under $1 million. Other instruction of 2.6 million and support services of 6.7. That other instruction is state specific programs generally. So that would be LAP and bilingual and probably everything that Maggie oversees is in that other instruction. So just to give a little detail of what we plan to do with those SR2 and SR3 is, so for SR2, we are spending it on teachers to keep class sizes low. We think it's important to have lower class sizes so students can have more one-on-one interaction with their teacher and help with learning loss. So that's SR2 expenditures. And SR3 is a much longer list. It's more money and has a longer list. So our plan is our tech assistant, K-5 full-time substitute. There is a substitute shortage and we are unable to fill a lot of our jobs, and we found it successful to employ our own person that is just a sub. So those students don't have learning losses on the days that their teacher can't get a sub. Another RMS teacher, our special education instructional coach, a fourth grade teacher, our True North contract, which is mental health support services through ESD 113. There is a couple HVAC system upgrades planned, summer school or varsity tutor, school supplies for all. So that is, we purchase supplies so kids don't have to purchase their own to come to school. An RMS and an RHS student engagement coordinator. Those are positions we had during the 21-22 school year and plan to continue. A board certified behavior analyst. I want to call it an analyst, but that's not the word. And curriculum and technology. It's ESSER funding, but it's flowing through the Department of Health. So our plans with that one are continue with health room assistants at RPS. There will be one shared between RPS and GMES, one shared between RMS and RHS, and also our ESD nursing services contract. So we are required to discuss in this budget hearing that the state funds us for material supplies and operating costs. just over 2.6 million, and we have budgeted 2.9 million. So we plan to spend all of the money the state provides us. So that is all the information I have for the general fund. And so we actually budget in 5 distinct funds. So the next one is the transportation vehicle fund. So the beginning fund balance of $140,000, the revenues of just over 7,000. The purchase of a bus will probably be a little less than 140, but it is time to purchase a new bus. So an ending fund balance of just over 7,000.
But we only own one bus.
We own 2.
Oh, we own 2. I thought we owned 1.
I believe it's 2.
I think, I just thought whenever
I think we own like one big one that has like the bays under it, and then the other one is a smaller version, so it
Oh.
doesn't go on a lot of athletic trips.
oh, okay, maybe that's how it was broken down to me.
And then we got vans also, correct?
Yes. So in the capital projects fund, beginning fund balance of 3.3 million, revenues of just over 1 million, expenditures of 550,000 for an ending fund balance of 3.8. And I'll point out on the revenues, that's higher than normal. But what we're going to do when you get to debt service, we're transferring $1,000 out of debt service, that's state forest money, and into capital projects. So that's also allowable. State forest money gets deposited into debt service and general fund, and it accumulates in debt service. And when you need it, you can transfer it to capital projects to spend it. So that's going to occur this year. So right now, the capital projects that are planned is the 350,000 for safety and security projects and $200,000 for miscellaneous building improvements.
And that's 300, that security projects is what we were
Mhm.
been doing. And that money is coming already from our budget or from the,
It will come from the capital projects fund.
capital?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So this is the debt service fund with that 1 million expenditure in there. That expenditure is actually just transferring over to capital projects to have that available. So the ending fund balance would be 722,000. And then the last of the 5 funds that we budget for is the ASB fund. The beginning fund balance of 505,000, revenues at 309,000, and expenditures at 297 for an ending fund balance of 517. This fund has actually grown a little bit over the past few years because it's been difficult for 2 years for kids to do fun things and spend their money. So while it has grown, it's attributed to that. And we have reduced fees for students. We've actually waived them except for clubs, so that we'll use up some of the fund balance as needed as well.
So students still need to buy ASB cards and so on and so forth.
They need to buy an ASB card, and if their club has a national dues, they pay for that, but they are currently not paying pay-to-play fees.
Okay, because that was gonna be my next one. Because they didn't do that. When did that stop? That was like a year or so ago, or
We have not charged for pay-to-play fees for, this will be the second year.
second year? Okay. All right.
Hey,
And
Jill,
we
can
are- Yes,
you hear me okay? Would you prefer to be done, get through it all and then take questions, or you want to take questions as we're going through like this?
I'll take your question right now.
Okay. On the ASB funds, that does strike me, right? There's like $500,000 there. Is this high school or the entitle and is it K-12 or is it just high school?
It's K-12, and there's actually pushing 200 individual accounts. So every club has their own, and the biggest balance, if we were to look, is Greenhouse. And they typically save up for a few years to do big projects for improvements into the greenhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's so many, it looks big, but there are 200 accounts that each get to decide how to do with their money. Are we saving and what are we doing with it?
Perfect. Okay. No, that's where I was at. I was like, boy, this getting to a level that let's let the kids have some fun this year and come up with some ideas. But thank you. Your explanation was spot on. So I appreciate
And
that.
I am imagining that, 'cause in the primary and elementary have some, and I'm guessing a lot of times because it's ASB, they'll let the kids vote on what they want to do. So hopefully in the spring, we
Yeah.
can return to more of the field day type activities. And the kids then get the fun of picking what they want to do or what they want the prizes to be and that type of thing.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Question,
Yes.
so the ASP funding, does that also do like for field trips and things like that, or like the plant sale? Out of the
Yep, so
greenhouse?
the plant sale does go into ASB. Some field trips go through ASB, so like the high school national conventions and those type of things go through here. If a sports team fundraises to get extra jackets or something that's not part of their uniform, it goes through here. And then like the National Honor Society and FFA and the Knowledge Bowl Club all runs through here.
Okay.
Is-
I was curious about like the younger kids getting an opportunity to like go to a museum.
Yep, so right now, the district doesn't charge for that, but if they were to go on a field trip, it would run through here. But we had stopped charging for K-5 field trips about 4 years ago.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then another requirement for budget presentation is a 4-year forecast. And when this became law about 4 years ago, every financial person was like, why are you making us do this? Because we can't predict what the legislature is going to give us for revenue in 4 years. So this is not super reliable, but it's an educated guess of where we're going to land. In general fund, the fund balance is decreasing. We know expenditures are going to keep going up and we don't know what our revenues are going to be. But as always, we'll make adjustments from year to year in the budget to make sure that we continue to be in a healthy place. But when ESSER monies drop off, we're losing a big chunk of change. So there is some concern in that area. And those will be done in the 23-24 school year. So that is all I have, unless there are more questions.
Done for me.
Who gets to pick
Jennifer, it
up
might be
the bus?
helpful if you can call on people, since I can't see folks to call on if questions are there. I do have one more, but go ahead and go in the room first and see if there's any.
Well, why don't you go ahead and ask your question and then we'll take public comment on this. That make sense?
Oh, let's go to public comment first.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. If there's
All right.
public that have questions.
Okay,
The person online does not want to make any public comment on this topic.
all right. Anybody else? Okay, we don't have anybody that has any comments.
Okay, thank you. Jill, I'm a big fan of the school supplies, and if we can afford it, not having the young families have to foot the bill for that. Just curiosity, how does that really work? I think about local stores that are used to getting families come in and get their school supplies. So do we buy local? Do we go through an ESD consortium to get supplies? Is it, where do we get the supplies that they would typically buy at the local grocery store? Does that make sense?
So since it's federal money, we purchase through a bidded cooperative. So we are a member of KCDA, which is Keene County Directors Association. That all school districts in the state of Washington can belong to. And they go out to bid on everything from pens, paper, desks, furniture, computers, and then we can piggyback off their bids. So we do all our school supply purchasing through KCDA.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. And that's everything, right? All the pencils, pens, tissues, everything that we normally have families bringing in. So
Families
thank
that
you.
bring a backpack.
Do teachers still have to buy their own stuff? Is there enough money for?
So they are not required to buy their own stuff. There's always going to be a teacher who wants the cute decoration, or the something extra or the fancy basket. So they're always going to be buying something. But as far as school supplies, we provide everything that a student needs.
Okay. You hear those stories. Oh, the teachers have to go out and buy this stuff. Well, do they have to? want to, if we're providing it, then let's make sure we're providing it,
Hmm.
you know, to everybody, but
So the backpacks and all the essentials they need are coming out of Esser's fund then, correct?
Everything except backpacks. That's all we're asking families to bring in. Actually, Roof normally does a big school supply drive, but haven't needed to these last 2 years. So their big drive is actually backpacks. So families who need a backpack can work with Roof if they can't afford a backpack. So they have an opportunity to perhaps come to school at no cost to them and still have the same supplies that every other kid has.
through roof,
Yes,
through roof.
the backpacks. Yep.
Hey, Jennifer, that's something that I'm not sure we've done in recent years. I think Justin probably tell you that the district is gives our appreciation to Roof regularly. But why don't we do that? Why don't we send a card to Roof and have the board sign it? Just appreciation for this backpack drive. That'd be pretty cool, I think.
Okay. I
That's
think
really nice that they continue to do that.
That'd be a good idea. Okay.
Well, I
But
think
would there be any interest in having them come in and do a presentation as to what they do provide for the community?
I like that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if he heard you or not.
Did you hear that, Michael?
Yeah. And in all transparency, I used to advise their board, but it's been probably 10 years ago. And so I would be more than, I would like to hear an update on how they're doing. They do so much for after school programs and stuff and these kind of drives and Santa Claus time and all that. So yes, if the board's interested, I would be all favor of that.
Okay.
I'd just like to say, I appreciate everything that is getting done so the kids can get their supplies and get ready for school. And I think we're doing a good thing. I went to Walmart the other day down in Centralia and they had a big school bus out front and they're handing out little slips. Say, hey, go get this stuff and bring it back to us for the kids. And I'm like, aren't you providing that this year? And they like looked at me and laughed like, yeah, right. And I'm like, that's odd. So, I'm sure they're spending their money elsewhere. Everybody's got needs right now.
Well, I think we don't vote yet, right? So we're just doing the hearing time and then we'll vote later on in the agenda, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Jill. As always, nice presentation. It looks like up next we have time for public input on items that are on the agenda. Do we have anybody signed up to give input tonight?
No one has signed up to give input, Michael.
All right. Thank you, Justin. We will then go on and I'll ask for a motion for an addition to the agenda or a change. I guess this is a change. And unredeemed warrants moved to new business is the change. So you can get a motion to move unredeemed warrants to new business.
I will.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we have our consent agenda, which consists of the minutes, vouchers and payroll, designated district officers, and contracts. Can we say a word maybe about designate district officers? Would that be possible?
Sure. So that's a designation of our Title IX officers and our ADA compliance officer for the district. Will Moss and Kelly Bremgardner have been the Title IX officers for a while, and they're going to continue. And Laura Staley has also been the ADA compliance officer, so they'll continue in those roles.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions? Board
How long
members?
have they been in those roles?
Don't know.
Laura, since she's been here 7 years,
You're nine.
you're 9, and then
Longer than that.
So
Will's been Title IX since I think for 10 or 12 years, and Kelly actually for the last 3 or 4, because we ended up, it was a couple of years ago, not only do you need a primary, which is Will Moss, you need a
Which is,
Title IX person. So just in case Will is the one who's in violation of Title IX,
right.
so you need a to do that, and that's when the Kelly Bremgardner.
we also look for a male and a female.
Right. And so is there they don't have an issue with continuing? Do we want to spread the love to somebody else?
I think I talked to them today and they were okay continuing with the role.
And they,
Okay. And when I say spread the love, that just means take that away from
Yes.
somebody else who hasn't had that.
they keep drawing the short straw.
Okay. Hey,
All right. And then the contracts, folks, we put on consent agenda as well. These are renewals, they're not new. Any additional questions any other questions on consent agenda before I ask for a motion?
This seems like locked up.
All right. Assuming everybody's had a chance to look it over, I will ask for the motion now to pass the consent agenda.
I'll motion.
Neil, you want a second?
Oh, sure, I'll second. I'm having problems with my screen. It's locked.
He's getting some tech help.
Okay. Fair enough, Neil. All right, we got the motion, we got the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And consent agenda has passed. We will now look at some annual reports. And I believe I'm turning this to Jennifer, or is there somebody else going to take on annual reports?
Yep, I will guide us through this. Let's see. All right, so these are reports, annual reports that are in board policy that we will be providing updates to the board on every year. And our first one is affirmative action report that Jill's going to help us with.
Yep. So you have a copy of the full report, but I'm just going to talk about the highlights of what's contained in the report. So from year to year, so this is fiscal year 2020. So it's talking about our employees for the 21-22 school year. But we had a 7% increase in the employment of minority teachers. We had a 6% increase in the employment of minority classified secretary group. The only job category that we are underutilizing minorities in is administrators. Female administrators are no longer considered underutilized, so that's an area of improvement. And another area of improvement is our custodial maintenance is no longer underutilizing minorities. So we had a movement of utilizing employees in multiple categories from year to year. You have a question?
Are we having any problems with anybody applying for these administrative jobs, or are they just not applying for the?
I think they are not applying.
Okay.
But to talk about what we're gonna do to keep working towards our affirmative action goals. Increase awareness of equal employment opportunity among our hiring managers. So working with principals and program administrators to make sure they're aware of our goals. Ensure job descriptions align with actual duties and continue with Ed Jobs Northwest. So we are part of a consortium within Ed Jobs Northwest. And so those are school districts that used to just be an ESD 113, but they're now open to school districts across the state that can join them. And they make sure that we're advertised in national magazines and minority magazines, and they get our job postings out to where they need to be, which wouldn't be cost effective if we needed to do it by ourselves. So we are going to continue to be a part of that consortium. Align interview process with the essential job functions, and annually, and it's coming up next week, we will conduct a new employee orientation, which includes district policies related to employment opportunity and affirmative action. So all our employees are aware of our policies. Any questions?
Jill, I don't know if you know this or Jennifer, but I think about student teaching and, districts opening themselves up to student teachers as a way to help with the recruitment of underrepresented groups. I don't know if something like that exists for administrators. Are there practicums or things that administrators do that we could open ourselves up to sort of being a training ground a little bit, or offering those opportunities? Or is it mostly, those are folks that are already in the district that go on to get those credentials and then they do some of that? So can you guys speak to that for a moment?
for our administrators, the internship is typically done within the district in which you're already hired. So we would have our current teachers who are working on being administrators and they would do their internship here. Yeah, so our best way to recruit is to make sure we're out, we're engaging with with programs that are prepping principals and, getting out there in front of people and letting them know when we have openings. We need to reach out to qualified candidates that meet our the profile of the people we're looking at that are gonna match our student makeup in our district and try and encourage them to apply for our positions.
Yeah. Okay, I thought that, but I just wanted to double check and see if there's something else we could do. So thank you, Jennifer.
Yep. Our next report will be given by Justin and it's on asset loss.
All right, so on the asset loss, the report I'll give you is mainly around those items that tend to sometimes disappear. So this past year, we had 23 Chromebooks that are no longer available for student use. 4 of them were stolen, and when a Chromebook is stolen, we require the student and or parent to file a police report and then provide a copy of that police report to us. That number may have been, we had 2 other students that tried to tell me they had a stolen Chromebook until I told them they had to file a police report. And then they found their Chromebooks. So those ones weren't stolen. So we got down to 4 stolen Chromebooks, and then 19 fall in that category of lost or damaged, and really it is the damaged piece that student drops it, student breaks it on purpose, something pop gets spilled on it, milk gets spilled on it, and so those are things that we deem damaged and we're not able to necessarily repair. We try as much as possible, even with the damaged Chromebooks, to pull them back in and take the parts that we can still use from them and use them to fix other Chromebooks to make sure we reduce that amount of Chromebooks that we're doing. So some of the things that we will do, and when you think about 23 Chromebooks, I want you to understand that that's less than 1% of our total Chromebook population. So it's actually a pretty small number and is within range of what most districts would see. We just need to continue to inform parents and students about loss and damage coverage. We do internal insurance with that, so students can pay $15. Students or families can pay $15 if they're free and reduced, and it doesn't cost them anything. That first instance of breakage is as long as it's not on purpose or deemed like went out and just, I'm going to whack this thing because I don't want to do my homework anymore. As long as it's not on purpose, then we take care of that first one. The second time around, there's a little bit of a cost to it. And then we're also need to be working with our check-in, check-out process. And we're looking at ways to do that actually more through our library book system. Rather than the current system we're using. So we'll be checking it in and checking it out via the library and the processes will get a little bit tighter with folks, with kiddos. So that's kind of where we are with the annual asset loss prevention stuff.
All right, because I didn't know anything about the $15, because I know my kid has one, and I don't know anything about paying $15.
So a lot of times parents and students won't pay it up front, and then I'll get a phone call from the school like I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. They can pay it. They can pay it after the fact. To just do we think it was done on purpose? Well, no, we don't think it was an accident.
Yeah.
So we're good.
I don't know, I'm just trying to think back of it, of when there was even an opportunity to pay that, so she went to summer school. She's a senior. She has her own Chromebook now. But when did you get that Chromebook? Did you get that over the summer? From?
That one she did.
That one she did?
That one she did. Yeah, that's not the one that was checked out to her for the year. So we didn't offer assurance or
Not during the
insurance
summer.
for the summer.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we checked out seniors Chromebooks that we're not returning. So they got the used ones, but but probably at the beginning of this year, right?
Connections conferences is when the assurance program goes out to parents.
Yeah, because I can't remember that at all. So I'm just,
So when your daughter, when school year starts, she'll return her summer school Chromebook, and then she'll actually get the Chromebook that she had last year. She'll get that one back.
oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just check them in every May or June.
June.
Right?
Oh,
So
okay.
we don't usually keep them over this time.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions for Justin? All right. Our next is secondary traumatic stress and workplace well-being, and Maggie's going to help us with this one.
So, one of the things that I inherited is the wellness committee. And so the wellness committee is something that is required by the state of Washington. And under that is a requirement from the state of Washington that we have policy and procedures in place for dealing with secondary trauma and stress in the workplace. So, in workplace well-being for our employees, make sure everybody is feeling good. And so, this is outlined in board policy 5515 as far as the things that we are required to do annually to make sure that we are addressing any secondary stress or trauma that our employees may deal with, working within a school and having to deal with multiple situations. And then also that we are just continuing to take the temperature of the well-being of our staff. And so there were, last year was the first year that we actually implemented this policy, and that the state of Washington had asked us to do some things on this. So we did several things. One of the things that we did is we had Dr. Mona Johnson, who specializes in workplace well-being. She actually is an administrator up in North or South Kitsap, up there. And so she did some virtual sessions with our staff that chose to participate on dealing with stress, making sure that we keep a really healthy work-life balance. And so, she gave us a lot of good tips and information on compassion fatigue. Our wellness committee has members from all buildings and both classified and certified staff. We really spent a lot of time understanding the difference between what secondary trauma is and workplace stress. I mean, I think every job has stress and things that go well and don't go well in their jobs, which is a little bit different from workplace trauma. So we really started to try to understand that. And then we spent some time talking about really ways that we can provide opportunities for our staff to just have fun, to kind of relax, make sure that we are a good, fun place to be, that people like to come to work. And so this looked very different at every building. One building had coffee and conversation sessions on Friday mornings where they provided coffee and just a chance to just chat and talk about, life, not just about school. I think the primary school did a big lip sync battle where they all kind of dressed up in costumes and had fun. We had wellness kind of staff activity sessions. I know that there was an after school event at Mr. Black's house and they played games and all of those things because his wife was part of that for the middle school. So we did those kind of fun things that we had a lot of positive feedback on. So as we move into like this next year, that's definitely something the wellness committee asked to continue. So we're going to continue to try to push out those types of activities. The other things that we are looking at is smart health and really trying to get our staff involved in using the Smart Health Initiative. This is something that goes along with our insurance that the state of Washington and the healthcare authority have these like smart health activities that you can participate in, like drinking water every day and all of that. And you can earn these points that will actually give you an incentive on your health insurance. They'll give you $125 towards your deductible. And so we have talked as a wellness committee that we want to push that out to our staff, because there are a lot of our staff may not know this is $125 that you can get, that most everybody uses that for their help, for their deductible. So that's something that we're really working on. And then the other thing is starting to talk about what type of climate survey that is. A piece of the legislation and the requirements that are in that board policy, which is to do some type of a climate survey. So we'll start talking about what that might look like here in Rochester. So.
Under the Smart Health Initiative, and it might not be under that, is there programs for if an employee gets an annual physical?
Yes.
That they get, I don't know, $100 or what, like
Yes,
$125,
so
whatever.
you have to earn, I believe it is 800 points in the smart health system. And you get points by doing some of the activities. One is like this little wellness survey. You get like 100 points or 200 points for that. One is you can, if you go and keep up with those annual screenings that you do, your annual physicals, you can count points towards that. One of the things that our wellness committee explored, and we are now a partner with them, that if we wanted to run our own initiative, so say we wanted to put like a Rochester walks, and we make some, we do a big push of initiatives that you're gonna go walk the track over your lunch break or during your planning period, walking a couple of laps. We could do that as a Rochester school district as employees, and we could then register with Smart Health and give our teachers points for that towards that. So that was some things that we're just starting to explore, but really, really looking at wellness community, not just about food service and kind of those types of things, but dealing with this idea of workplace wellness. So.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Maggie, I've had the opportunity to do this for a few years, working for the Health Care Authority, and you do get that, and I think you also get like a $25 Amazon gift card or something. So there's a couple of incentives I get in there to get those points, and so I'm glad that that's being offered to PEB as
I
well.
think that
Yeah,
must be in PEB, not SEB.
yeah. You don't think that's in SEB too? I think it's. I thought it was in both. I don't know. Who knows?
I will look, but that was definitely, there was quite a few of us in wellness committee that felt like that's not really well known, all of the different things that are offered in Smart Health. And it is the service by moving to SEB and some of that universal health care within Washington employees that we really do have some things that we can access that as smaller districts we haven't been able to. So.
Thank you, Maggie.
It's a good thing.
Any other questions? All right. Our next one is a sexual harassment update. This is from policy 5011. This will be just a brief update. I did check to see how many incidents that we had that were classified as sexual harassment or Title IX incidents that we were investigated last year. I'm going to say there were less than 5. We don't want to get too specific on things because we can start to identify specific individuals who might have been in part of investigations. So there were less than 5 in the district, and evidence that the investigations were conducted as outlined in the policy was exactly what I found when I asked questions about how the investigations were done. And that's what the policy states, is what the investigation needs to look like, who needs to be a part of that investigation, what needs to happen if there's a finding, and what needs to happen if there was not a finding. We will continue to work with this, with the sexual harassment, and ensure we're implementing the guidelines in the policy by providing training to the Title IX and civil rights officers in our district. We'll also provide investigation training to administrators to make sure they know how to conduct the investigations when it's necessary. And then also to provide training to students and staff about when and how to report a harassment issue. And that's a really important piece. Staff need to report if they see something occurring, if they hear it, or if something's happening to them, and they need to know who to go to. And our kids need to know the same thing, and our staff need to know what to do if they hear something from a student. So all of those things will be covered. Any questions about that one? All right. Our next one is restraint and isolation, and Laura's gonna brief us on this one.
Hello, and hi, Michael. So
Hello.
this is a report that's less pleasant to talk about than the wellness committee. But it's something that we really need to be aware of and continue to focus on how to ensure we're doing the best for our students and for our staff. So the report shows the number of incidences of isolation and restraint in the 21-22 school year. And within that report, it's broken down per building and per isolation or restraint. And then what you can see in that information is that there has been an increase from previous years. And one of the most important thing to keep in mind from my perspective is the fact that the majority of the students that were that had a restraint or isolation occur were kindergartners. And one of the things to really think about, there are a couple of things with this. One of them is the fact that our kindergartners had, in their 5 years, 1.5 years-ish had been during COVID. So their capacity for social interaction and self-management around others and those types of things were really limited. We also had staff that were wearing quite a bit of safety equipment when we consider the beginning of the school year with COVID. And so there were some things in place that made it a more challenging start for the school year. Now, the fact that I'm saying there are some reasons why this occurs, I want you to hear me say that we are going to continue to find ways to support our staff and our students in other ways to really support students who are struggling with their behavior. And some of the things you see that we really are continuing to train on routines and procedures, how things should be going in a classroom, what to do in a situation where a student is struggling with their behavior. I do an annual training regarding restraint and isolation law, and the law basically says don't do it unless there's a likelihood of serious harm. And so we need to be very clear that it's only occurs if there's a likelihood of serious harm. Additional steps that we're doing. Did you have a question? You had a.
I was thinking about me. Yeah, I'm pretty gonna let you continue.
Okay, I'll finish and then, sorry, I get going. So just, throw something at me. It's good. So additional steps is Jill spoke about the board certified behavior analyst. I just say it slow, so I say it right the first time. Right. And she is really, we've already had conversation about the importance of this work, and especially at our primary school, to really support our staff in finding alternative ways to help our students be successful. We had a lot of students who were runners last year, and that was challenging. So let's look at some ways to help keep our students in a safe place. Additional staff training for personal physical safety. We had 3 significant staff injuries that are longer term injuries. All 3 staff that were hurt with those injuries have lasting effects. And that's not something we want for our staff ever. We want to make sure our staff are safe as well as our students being safe. So helping staff with making sure that they're keeping their space with students and finding alternative ways to deal with situations. Renewal of foundations teams, that's something that we actually spoke with administrators about today. And that's supporting the work of teaching appropriate behaviors, having really common expectations and those kinds of things to help our students know what the rules are and what the expectations are. And then the last one is a registered behavior technician. Or we have some certified behavior technicians. We've had staff that within the last 12 months have been trained to support behavior in a more purposeful way. So, and we will continue that work. And they have oversight by the BCBA. It's too many letters. It's but we're going to continue to make sure staff are trained in the most appropriate ways to work with our students. So, any questions for me?
So what is the driving factor if you got to call 911, what pushes it to that point? Because I've been on the receiving end of that. So what catastrophic event happens where you got to call 911 and have us show up?
So I'm not going to be able to speak to every event when 911 is called because I'm not necessarily privy to that. And there might be situations where I don't have paperwork related to that. I know the incident where 911 was called 2 years ago, might have been 3 years ago, but there was a staff member that had to go to the emergency room because of injury. So, and the student was being very unsafe. We were afraid of student injury. And so in that situation, 911 was called. 911 is sometimes called secondary. You'll see there were no incidences in RMS or RHS. Again, we want to make sure staff is safe. And I'm going to step to the side and come back to your question. So along with the training we talked about, everybody that ever puts their hands on a student is trained in what's called right response training. It's a 2-day training initially and 1 full day every year. And I'm also trained, and building administrators are trained, and staff that are working with the students. So I'm going to step back to your question. So sorry about that. But part of that training is that if a student is more than half your size, you have to have 2 adults or a certain amount of adults to keep everybody safe. And so if it's a student that's larger, there's a better chance that 911 is going to be called because of chance of injury.
Mhm.
And one thing I think is really important in the data that's not very pretty is the fact that there were not student injuries. So I think that's really important that our staff are ensuring that our students are safe from injury.
The question you have is gonna go with that. So we don't have any students attacking other students in class because of their behavioral issues.
That is something that the adults are very well trained. They will get in between and direct the student in another direction. And sometimes that's a situation where you might have a restraint when if there's a possibility that another student is going to be hurt, then we want to redirect the student. And sometimes that might be and restraint may be like you're holding a student to move them over here. So it's, you know, that's most often what it is it's like, okay, so I'm in a place where I'm going to attack Maggie. You know, Jill's going to move me away from Maggie to keep Maggie safe and me safe.
I can understand the redirection and try to, go make changes there. The isolation, are they like put into a separate room? Is there people that are with, I'm just thinking, okay,
So yes.
child put in a separate room, lights are dimmed, try to get them to calm down. I don't mean like put in a closet with the lights off. I mean,
No, so we have a location, and the primary building is the only building that this room was used in this past year. And it is a location that has padding in it because we've had students who will bang their head against the wall and things like that. And there is an adult that there's a window, and if the student is in there, the reason the student would be in there is because they're at a place where they're very dangerous and they're hurting people. And so the adult is right there. I mean, with looking in the whole time.
Do we have cameras? Is there something watching this situation that's occurring?
What's that?
The adult is
Adults.
watching the situation.
Yeah, the adult is watching, yeah, and it's within the classroom, so there aren't
Oh,
cameras
okay,
within the classroom.
okay.
But we wouldn't put a child in an isolation room and walk away.
Never, no, the adult is
Maybe on the outside looking in, but they're there watching to make
And-
sure they're okay.
in the rooms. I mean, we don't lock students in any place because, I mean, God forbid, the adult passes out or something, the student's locked in there and something happens. So, I mean, we make sure that the adult is right there with the student.
So at that point where a child is being put in isolation, what is the procedures? Are their parents being called, their guardians?
Yes.
Who's being involved
Yes.
in decisions at that point?
Yes, so there's each of the rooms have a procedure that is written and it's on the door that says what to do, and there's a certain period of time. So the student is in there and the adult checks on them and verbally checks in with them after a certain period of time. Do you remember how many minutes it is?
I don't know.
I think I can't remember for sure, but I think it's. I don't want to say a number and be wrong, but the adult verbally checks in with them to see how they're doing. Parents are called. That's part of the procedure of the paperwork that we get this data from, is parents are made aware of it. Phone call happens right away. They receive written documentation within 24 hours. And so they are very much in the loop.
If we could, I'd like to get a copy of that. What's posted
Absolutely.
there so we can see where things are. Because, yeah, it's important to, the parents are contacted. It's Health and wellness of the employees
Yes.
is paramount.
Yes.
I would assume a vice principal or somebody has been contacted, so
Yes.
administration is also aware of the situation and they're there to assist.
Yes.
You know,
And that's also on the documentation, which we'll make sure to get to you, that says that when building administration is made aware, and I will say that building administration, as soon as an incident occurs, is made aware of the situation. There are routines in the buildings about how that occurs to make sure that they have radios and they'll call somebody in.
wonderful.
Yeah, none of it's wonderful, but we really try and
Yeah.
try to, make sure we're doing the best. And
Yeah.
continuing to train staff and continuing to reflect on ways. And honestly, I like bang on doors and ask lots of questions of others. What have you done that might be more successful? And last year was a rough year all around for unfortunately student behavior, which was really challenging. And so we will continue to work and continue to train our staff. And I love what you say about the health and wellness of staff, because this is not fun. This is hard
Yes.
for our staff to have the kiddos, our poor little kids or kiddos that are so out of control with their bodies.
COVID's definitely brought around a lot of mental stuff that everyone's trying to deal with and work with, and antisocial behavior. And yeah, I should say thank you to everyone that's involved in trying to bring these kids back into the school situation that they've been missing out on. The social networking of these kids and playing together. It's been really hard the last year or two. So hopefully we'll continue to move forward. I look forward to the school year
Yes,
becoming
me
more
too.
constant of back to the way things should have been.
And one of the things is the number of incidences did decrease throughout the year. Staff continued to try and work on things to, what can we do? How can we regroup? How can we reflect? Which is also part of that document. Need to write down like, what did we reflect on, and what might we want to do differently next time? And so the incidences decreased through the year. You have seen a couple of contracts from a couple of other districts or schools. A couple of the students are now in a different program that has the capacity to do some things that we aren't able to do to help students be successful.
Thank you.
Laura, just a couple of things you might want to speak about is, she noted about the kindergarten being the grade where we're seeing the most. Speak a little bit to the lack of preschool that those kids were in. They didn't have it.
Yes.
And then our pre-kindergarten courses that hopefully that will have helped a lot of our kids prepare too.
Now I get to go to my happy place and talk about something cool. So I, like Jennifer mentioned, when we look at our students that were in kindergarten last year, and even first grade, their access to early learning was really not there. And oftentimes, even if there were opportunities available, parents were working at home, and so like, we're just going to keep our kiddos at home so they can be safe. And we can see the impact that has on our kiddos coming into kindergarten. So my happy place is talking about TK, our transitional kindergarten. This past year, we had one class that had 18 students in it. And that's their transitional kindergarten is 4-year-olds. They are 4, but not 5, August 31st. And so they're in transitional kindergarten for 1 year. Before they start kindergarten. So we have this opportunity for students. We're excited to see what the data will show us for these students coming into kindergarten and the capacity they will have for success. And now this school year, we'll have 2 classes. So we'll have 36 students that have this transitional kindergarten. And so that's just going to build our capacity for kiddos coming into kindergarten, being ready to be in school and having some of those skills that they need to be successful.
Any other questions for Laura?
Thanks for bringing me to the happy part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
Michael,
Laura.
that's the end of our annual reports.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't believe we have to vote to accept those reports, right?
That's correct.
Okay, then let's go ahead and move on to some old business around VIBA resolution for administrators. And Jill, am I turn this to you or to Jennifer?
I think unless you have any questions, we're just, this is ready for approval. But Jill is
Okay.
here if you have any questions.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it last time, but so I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to accept the VIBA resolution unless there are questions. Okay, I guess I will move that we that we approve the VIBA resolution. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. We are now into the part of the agenda here for new business. And I'm in the comfort of my home, but let me ask you all, you guys need a break or do you want to just keep moving along?
Yeah,
I'm fine.
let's keep
Okay, so
going.
let's move.
Keep it rolling.
All righty, there we go. Let's go to budget adoption. We just went over our budget and had a nice presentation. And so I will entertain a motion to pass the budget for the 2022-23 school year.
This is Neil, so moved.
Okay, Neil moved, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, I was waiting on him to
All
say
right.
something. I'm like,
You don't have to wait when the chair asks.
oh, okay, well, I was waiting for him. I was like,
Just
I
jump.
thought he was getting ready to say something.
I'm sorry, Tom, did you have a question for it or you just?
No.
Okay.
We're good.
All right, we're good. All right. And then the next item, speaking of happy places, this is around a donation, which we always enjoy. So I think this was a FFA donation, but go ahead and give it to me. Jennifer, is that what it is?
Correct. This is a donation to FFA from, and I don't have my computer open here,
This chapter of LSAW.
from Southwest.
Association of Washington.
There we go, from the Surveyors Association of Washington. And if I remember reading the letter, he had a child in the FFA program and who really enjoyed it. And so he wanted to give back. So he's donating, is it 300 or 350? $300.
Very nice. I'll go ahead and move that we accept the donation. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Very nice.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I think we missed one aye there, but I assume we passed it there.
Aye.
Yes.
There we go.
Trying together.
There we go.
Guy together.
All right,
thought I
folks,
said
we'll
aye.
move on. Yeah. I'll move on to, let's see, it says, I think it's meal price. I got cut off on my printed out agenda, but I believe we've got meal prices up next. And I understand this
Actually-
to be for the,
Michael, we've
Go
got
ahead.
one
Sorry.
before that one. We've got the minimum at basic education.
oh my goodness, I crossed it off without even calling on it. I'll blame COVID brain. How about that? Go for that one. The minimum basic education report. Thank you.
Yes, and this is a report that verifies that we are offering our kindergartners 1,000 hours per year of instruction. And that district-wide, we have more than 1,027 hours of instruction for our students throughout the district. It also goes through, if you read through the report, and specifies that we're offering the students which credits they need to graduate. It speaks to different courses that we offer. Are we teaching science? Are we teaching social studies? It just is a verification that we make to the State Board of Education that we're adhering to the basic, the minimum basic education requirements for the state.
Okay. Thank you. Do we need to, again, approve the report or just hear about it?
We do need an approval of this one.
Okay, I would entertain a motion then for the accepting of the minimum basic education report.
This is Neil, so moved.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Tom. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next, we'll go to the meal pricing. And again, what I believe I understand on this is that we have some federal resources to help us continue to offer free meals at the primary and grade schools. But there will be a fee charged at the middle school and high school. And I think we've gone through this. Thomas, you may not have had this talk yet, but we were actually charging quite a bit less for our meals than some other districts were, or the federal government even encourages us to. And so we've had to play catch up over the last, 5, 6, 7 years. And we're doing it as slowly as we can because we don't want to increase these fees, meal prices any more than we absolutely have to. But I think this is a year where you increase it a tad. So, Jill and Jennifer probably have the real story here, but that's how I understand it. So go for it.
I think you've done a good job and Jill, anything to add to that?
Nope.
Yeah.
Answer any questions?
Yeah, the meal prices are in there. I think it's about a 10% increase, I think is, I don't have it up right here. Any questions?
And the K-5 lunch price at 0, is that part of Esser's money?
No, it's a program called Community Eligibility Provision. And so if your free and reduced directly certified students reaches a certain level, you can participate in this program. So all kids are free. In Washington State, this past legislative session is mandating that if you're 40% or more, you have to participate in CEP. So those buildings are required to participate.
Okay, so have to, and it has to be free.
Yes.
And next year, they're going to continue this program? Or is
Yes,
this
so
yearly?
it's a three-year program. So even if we weren't to qualify next year, we would get to continue next year.
Okay. Wonderful.
Any other questions? All right, Michael, I think we're ready.
We're ready? Okay. I entertain a motion to accept the recommended meal prices for the district in 2022-23.
I'll do it.
Thank you,
This is
Thomas.
Neil, I will
Thomas
second.
moved. Thank you, Thomas and Neil. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, here we go. Next up, we have an out-of-state travel. I think this is for our athletic director, but go ahead, Jennifer, and you want to walk through?
You are correct. This is for Kevin Jurek, our athletic director, who started in the role of athletic director. I think it was in late September, early October of last year. So he has requested to go to the National Athletic Directors Conference in Nashville, Tennessee this year. It's in December, and I think this will be a really good opportunity for him. He has done a great job of jumping in and getting the job done. And he's working in isolation. He's the only athletic director in the district. So allowing him to travel and work with other athletic directors and learn from, I think, is going to be a great opportunity for him.
Okay. Any questions about the trip? Okay. If not, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and make the motion that we send Kevin on his conference trip. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're getting down there, folks. So now we have a series of first-time reads for policy. And Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So we have just a second there. We're gonna. So we have, I didn't count how many, but a few board policies to put up for first reading. The first one, why are you not moving? There we go. The first one is policy 3116. It's students in foster care. This policy provides supports for students in foster care. It speaks to how we are going to provide those supports. The reason for revision in this policy, if you look through it, it's to clarify the services provided to all students. And the key there is all students that are in the foster care system. Shauna has helped with this policy, and some of the primary updates that came in this one are that it defines the inclusion of all students who are the subject of dependency proceeding. That's a big change or clarification, I should say, in this policy. It aligns directly to the RCW now, and it cites that in the policy. And it also clarifies the apportionment of cost for transportation when a foster care placement results in a different school district. So if a student is here in a foster care home and then moves, the foster care family, let's say, goes down to Oakville, and they still want to come to school here, which would be best case for a foster care child, it speaks to who pays for that transportation and how you come to an agreement with that payment. Any questions about this one? There is a procedure that goes along with it as well. Let me just address that real quickly. Again, it's still addresses the students in foster care. The big thing in the procedure is that it updates out of home, which is a dated term, to foster student now. Again, it aligns to the RCW, and it aligns the procedure aligns specifically to the RCW, and there is the clarification. It speaks more in depth about the clarification on the school placement of a student. Those are the big changes in this one. Any questions?
Who tracks, at what level do we track kids in foster care? Is it just up here? Is it at down, down at the school level, or?
You want to speak to that?
So we actually receive the kids that are qualified for the program through a data agreement between Child Administration and OSPI. And so we actually have a data match that goes through CEDARS that identifies the kids that actually qualify under the definition of foster care. Families can also bring in a school notification form that's filled out by a case manager so that we don't fail to provide services to students and families who qualify. School counselors are aware, so a child school counselor is aware. Sometimes a teacher, it just depends. We don't share that information. I don't share down to a teacher level. That would happen more at a building level between the foster parent and the teacher, and building administrators. What I will share though is that we have a very small population of foster youth. Rochester is not abundant in foster homes. Most of our placements are with kin family. And those kids can qualify as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Shauna. All right. Go to the next one, which is policy 3122. It speaks to excused and unexcused absences. This one defines, in the policy, it defines the absences and protocols for students who are absent. The reasons for the revisions is the big change in here is it addresses what attendances or excused and unexcused absences are for synchronous and asynchronous instruction. It's a little late because we're beyond that and we're no longer doing asynchronous and synchronous instruction, but we certainly want to be prepared if the situation was ever to arise again. And this speaks to how we would provide attendance and clarifies that. So the new language, we have new language that defines absences for the synchronous and the asynchronous instruction. It adds the reasons for excused absences, including, and the additional piece, I think that's really big, a big change is that it adds mental health, wellness, and behavioral health treatment in as an excused absence. That's a big change in our language. Additional language is also included about tiered interventions for support when students are identified as having attendance problems. And then there's lots of syntax revisions for clarity throughout the policy. There's a procedure that goes with it, and that one really works to align with the changes in there, align with the changes that are made in the original policy. But there is a change around truancy board. What used to be called the Community Truancy Board is now called the Community Engagement Board, which really is appropriate because what we do is engage our students and try and keep them in school. It's not about being truant. Any questions about this policy?
Jennifer, it's Michael. I do have a question, and I don't expect you might have the answer tonight, but something to think about. I can appreciate the mental health, mental wellness, and mental health treatment or behavioral health treatment reasons for putting the language in. I do wonder, like, if a student were to say, you know, it's a stressful time, I'm going to take a day away. I need that for my mental health. I understand that. If they say, I'm taking a day, I'm taking 3 days, I'm taking 5 days, I'm taking 2 weeks, at what point does the district need something from a professional to say that that's an excused absence? Or has that been broached yet? Like, how much time is allowed for the new language?
Yeah, so specifically to the mental health and the behavioral health piece, not specific to that, but it's for any type of absenteeism, that is where a student's struggling, where we do have to come in and start to work with the family and put together a plan. And do we need to offer instruction in a different format? Do we need to provide some different resources for the student? We can't just let them be absent. And even if they are excused, not address the concern and reach out to them and re-engage. So it's not specifically to the mental health have we addressed that, but in general to students who are absent a lot, we need to engage.
Yeah, I have no doubt it's a real need to have some opportunity there, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So thank you. And I can appreciate the district will follow up. It'll be interesting to see down the road how this gets played out, but thank you.
Yep. Yep. We are going to have to watch it, and we will follow up and let you know how it goes.
Yeah, thanks.
Our next one is 4210, and this is the regulation of dangerous weapons on school premises. This addresses the carry of firearms or dangerous weapons on the district property. And specifically, this one clarifies the language around firearms and dangerous weapons on the district premise. So it really doesn't, the intent hasn't changed, but it does clarify the language. So now the language in this policy mirrors the similar language or the same language that's found in other policies. It also outlines a staff reporting process if they believe another district employee has violated the policy of having weapons on campus, and that is new to this policy. And then there are syntax revisions for clarity again. Any questions about that one? Nope.
No.
We've got two more. This one is policy 4218. It's on language access. I said new. It's really not new. There is a current policy, but it has been entirely rewritten. So this is about implementing a culturally responsive language access program that provides for family engagement input from stakeholders and tailored to the district's current population with limited English proficiency. The reason for the rewrite is House Bill 1153 really outlined some new stipulations that caused us to go back and rewrite this policy. Maggie had a significant input into this and will be basically making the policy come to life. And some of the policy targets that are identified is the identification of the families needing the language access services. So it clarifies how we are going to need to identify them. It states that upon request, interpreters need to be provided for information about program services and activities. We need to make sure we're providing translation services for our families when they need it around programs and in meetings and such. And then it also speaks to how we're going to implement a language access program in its entirety, or at least start to implement it in the 23-24 school year. And we'll have to write that. There's a procedure that goes with it, and that procedure outlines the components of the language access program and speaks to some of the specifics that we need to make sure we're including in that program that will align to the policy. Anything to add, Maggie?
We're in good shape.
She's got a lot in place already, yes. Any questions about this one? Okay. Our last one is policy 6112. And in general, the policy outlines the district's authority to rent or lease unused property. The reason for the revision is just clarification of the language around firearms and dangerous weapons. Again, it's using the same language as we're using in other policies and putting it into this policy as well. And there's also a few syntax revisions that were made for clarity. The intent behind what's here is the same basic the intent of what was in the previous policy were written previously. Questions?
Jennifer, I'm not sure I understand. I'm reading that it's rental or lease of district property,
Mhm.
but then you're saying that clarification about firearms and danger. I don't get where the connection is between us leasing property and the firearm weapon.
So our policy has said that the district policy for any person, including a renter or leaser, to carry a firearm or dangerous weapon, it's a violation for them to carry
If we're okay.
firearm or weapon, and we are going to continue to say that. We just say it in a language that's similar to what we're saying in all of our other policies. So,
Understand. Thank you.
yep. Thanks for asking.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, there's your policies for first reading.
Thank you. Next up, we have one more thing. We have unredeemed warrants.
Jill, do you want to give just a quick update on this one?
Sure. So we are required annually, we have a look back period to see any uncashed warrants that we have. And we have to reach out to the people and let them know they have them and what did they need it reissued? Was it lost or stolen? And then if we have no response for them, we have to turn them over to Department of Revenue unclaimed property. And when you look at the report, you can see we have a rock star accounts payable person and we have 2 this year. So she keeps up on it on a regular basis. So we don't get here and she's got a big pile of them. So we just need approval from the board to cancel these warrants and move forward with unclaimed property processing.
Entertain a motion to cancel. I'm going to try. Jill, could you tell me what the language should be one more time? I'm sorry. I lost track there.
Approve the replacement or cancellation of warrants not redeemed.
Okay. Approval of, yes, what was just stated.
This is Neil, so moved.
And I will second.
Thank you, guys. You're saving me. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next up, we have opportunity for public to provide input on items that are not on the published agenda. Do we have any anybody who wants to talk to the board tonight?
We do have one. All right. Do you want to come on up front? All right.
Bubba.
Hello,
I
Bubba.
I just got one thing. So I know we're putting in new things in the back of the primary school. Just for an idea, if we can make at least one of those doors open up by itself. Because we got kids that are only this big. And I've come up to them plenty of times and opened the door for them because they can't get in.
Mm.
So if they're gonna just go over here, swipe the card, then they have to hurry up, run back to pull the door, they're gonna be stuck out there. So I've come up to them plenty of times that and have to open the door for them because they're small, that doors are heavy. If they're doing construction, if you can make one of them open up so that kids in the wheelchairs, they can push the button and make the back of the door open up. We got it in the front, we don't have any in the back.
And you're talking about the center doors in the primary school?
Yeah, into the main building,
Oh, into the front doors or the back door?
the back doors,
Back doors. Okay,
because we're already talking about putting the swipe card to unlock it.
yeah.
And I'm just, I'm always just looking at something different point of view. And I'm just like,
Okay.
I know it's quick enough. I know it's hard enough for me to swipe it at the gym and then get over there before it goes. Those kids are gonna be like swipe. And they can't pull the door anyways half the time.
It makes for good video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This, until you come up to the door and you see this little kid pulling on the door. Mr. Bubba, I'm trying to get in. I gotta go to the bathroom.
I'm trying to get in.
But is this a situation where we have an ADA situation where we have children with disabilities that are also going through this doorway? Is this like a playground area, or it sounds like that's what we really need, something where they can swipe the card and automatically would open.
Right.
So
I would say it'd be ADA also because the kid in the wheelchair.
yeah, then it has to be.
That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, that's all of our public input.
Okay, thank you, Bubba. We will look into what that would be, what the need is and what the cost might be. So thank you for bringing it forward. Team, thank you for carrying this today, and have a great summer. What's left of it before the school year begins. I guess we do have one more board meeting before school starts. And I will not be at that one. I'll be on travel. And Jennifer, do you want to double check, make sure we have a quorum here in a few days or in 2 weeks? You feel good about it?
I think we do. Neil, will you be here in 2 weeks? Thomas?
Be here in 2 weeks.
And Grant was planning on being here for 2 weeks, so we know we have them, and we'll see about Juana.
Okay, awesome. Okay.
Thank you for checking.
Thank you all. Jennifer, anything else for tonight that we need to do?
Nothing more for tonight.
Okay, all right. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Have a great
We're gonna
evening.
adjourn our meeting.
I adjourn the meeting at
There we go.
7:58.